Welcome to the Mixed Movement, where we speak candidly about the uncommon commonalities that people of mixed race face in our world today. Here, we listen, share, learn, and acknowledge that through our stories, we are all connected. We are your hosts,
Nate,
Chris,
and Rachel Go. Welcome to the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show. Today, Chris and I are going to talk about what it's like and some of the situations that we've encountered while traveling to different countries, different parts of the world, different parts of our own country, and the unique situations that we've been faced with. So, both Chris and I have traveled recently, very recently also. So, I'm very curious. Chris, how was your trip to New Orleans? Did anything happen there?
well, I love New Orleans, first of
Yeah.
all. Big plug for New Orleans. Everything amazing. It's super diverse there. I love that. I love that everywhere you look, there are people that look like me, and there are white people, there are black people. I've seen Asian people. Like, there's just such a mixture of those people there. And it's a place that honestly, I have never felt more comfortable than when I go there.
Is that why?
Yep.
Is because it's such a melting pot?
It's a melting pot, but there I like seeing people like me, I think, and you is a norm there. It's just normal because they
Huh.
have what they consider Creole people, which Creole
Right.
people, if you were to look up the description of what they are, they're of European and African American descent. And then if you go specifically in Louisiana, it is French
Yes.
and African descent. So there's a lot of people that look.
I did not know that.
That's what Creole is. So I look Creole, um, but I noticed when I was there, it's so funny because when I was there this last time, there were people that I caught taking my picture in the
Huh.
park. And I'm
What?
like, "You think I'm from here? Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. We're just gonna go with that. Hey, y'all."
That's funny.
Yeah, you
How
gotta
many
go.
times did that happen?
Well, it happened around 3 times. I say I was there 4 days, it happened 3 days out of the 4.
Interesting.
Yeah, and people just look at you and they just smile, they look a little bit longer than if they were just glancing, but
Right.
it's not awkward there. I think that here, because I know the feel for here and just growing up here, just having some discomforts here, that doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me at all. If they look because they're smiling, it's genuine, and there's nothing to be afraid of there, to me. I've never run into it. I did have a situation, not this past time that I went, but I went before, and there was this older gentleman with that accent that they have down there.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, personal space, what is that? So he walked right up to me, and I have the tattoos on my forehead. So he walks up to me and he puts his finger on my like, he touches my forehead,
What?
and he goes, "Yeah, what that there? What that mean?" And I couldn't like, if that first of all, here, you can't get that close to me at all, that's not happening.
No.
But it's just it's something about the energy there, and I was so comfortable that when he did it, it didn't upset me, I laughed because he was genuine and he really wanted to know, and I loved his accent, I thought it was awesome. But, I love the openness there and the freedom, and I don't know, there's just nothing that made me uncomfortable at all. Everybody invaded my personal space, like, everybody invaded my
That
personal.
seems impossible for you to allow. Yeah, that's very surprising to me.
I'm totally different there. My guards are down. It just feels good there. Like,
Yeah.
that is a place of belonging. I just feel like I belong there. And when I did our, ancestry, actually, our ancestors are from Louisiana of in many places, but they are from Louisiana.
Really?
Yeah. So it all makes
See, so
sense.
everybody is like watching me learn about my family.
Yeah.
So our ancestors are from Louisiana. No wonder you have such a pull to go there.
Yep, yep, always have. Even when I had never I mean, I'd never been there before, but I've always had a draw to stories, books I would read, they were from there, and I just felt this connection instantly, and this is way before learning that, our ancestors were from there. Um, I have a friend named Carla, she's amazing, and, she's a medium, and she told me,
Carla
you
Starla.
Carla
I
Styler,
love
thank you
her.
so she's amazing. So she was like, "Yeah, you'll see when you get there, you're gonna feel like it's gonna feel like home because that is your home." And I'm like, "Okay, well," and I went and oh my gosh, she was so right. She was so right. And I cried when I left. The first time I cried, I didn't wanna leave. It just felt so warm and I felt
Yeah.
comfortable. And I think that was really the first time in my life that I felt safe, you know,
While traveling in general or just overall?
just that location, just going anywhere actually. I've gone places and you just don't know, what to expect or what you're gonna run into, but I didn't have any of those fears, not even going there, it just felt right before I got there. And when I got there, I was like, "Home! This is
Yeah.
home. This is what a home feels
So
like.
if you're
Oh
gonna
my goodness."
move, I know where to find you.
That's right, absolutely.
Hi, I'm Rachel Go. It is my mission in life to help people like you learn to love every aspect of themselves in order to attain the life of their dreams. If you are ready to live a life free of fears and land that dream job, or go travel the world, or whatever your dreams may be, message me at coachrachelgo@gmail.com. That's CoachRachelGo@gmail.com. Or find me on Instagram at Live Empowered Now. There is nothing more powerful than loving the person you see in the mirror every day, because courage starts within.
So has there been any other location that you've been to where you feel maybe not necessarily scared, but mistaken for a local or felt a little bit like you fit in to the natives necessarily? Because you've traveled big too.
Yeah. I traveled big. I did. I've spent 5 weeks in Nigeria, and there was definitely I didn't feel like I didn't belong there because I know that, I mean, my ancestors are from there,
Yeah.
but I definitely didn't fit exactly because I didn't nobody looks like me there, and if I wanted to ignore that fact, no one would let me ignore that fact.
Really?
Um,
How so?
there was touching. If you've ever seen Slumdog Millionaire, the market that they go through, it's all these oh my god, it's so
Yes.
confusing. There's so
Yeah.
many people. Well, as you go through, it's kinda tight, so I would feel people, like, touch my arm or touch my hair. Um,
What?
yeah, yeah, and there was nobody else as light as me in those areas, so, of course, everybody was looking at me. So, me feeling like I fit in, like, no, that didn't happen.
No.
No, not at all. No,
That's
but I
interesting that
didn't
you were getting touched.
oh, yeah, in my hair, it's touching
Yeah.
my hair. But I will tell you something when I was there that was it was really upsetting. I went into the one of the little stores. So I was in Lagos, Nigeria. This is not a tourist area. Okay. Not at all. But that's what I wanted. I wanted to be in that area. I wanted to be with the people, the villagers. I wanted to really feel how it felt to be there. I wanted that genuine experience. So I went into one of the shops and I saw magazines. None of the people on the magazines looked like the village people. They were all European. I saw a lot of hair weave, and
Huh.
worst of all, I saw bleaching creams for the skin. I saw so many jars of bleaching, and I'm just like, my mind is blown because every person I look at, like, their skin is so amazing, it's beautiful, different tones, but even there, they're being shown what you look like isn't what beauty is, but, oh my god, but it is.
Wow.
But the bleaching creams, I mean, they're so harmful.
Bleaching creams?
Bleaching creams, and I've seen it before. I saw, like, their faces would be light and their hands would be light, but their neck and their arms would be dark. And I'm like, why are you doing like, you don't even understand how beautiful you are, and your skin is amazing."
Seriously.
Like, but, I mean, society just gets in and just beats the hell out of the realness and the beauty in the realness, even all the way over there.
What year was this?
I wanna say 2012. I wanna
Okay.
say 2012 is when it was, yeah. Yeah,
So,
it was.
one thing that I noticed recently, actually, when I was traveling out to visit you guys in the fashion magazines, there are a lot more biracial,
Mhm,
mixed race
mhm,
models. So,
mhm.
hopefully
Yeah,
that is not as prominent as it was in 2012, 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
So, hopefully
And they've had some beautiful models that come out of Africa.
I know, stunning.
Can't remember her name right now, but she just took over the magazine covers. Everything about her is just amazing. She has really, really dark skin, and it's just flawless. She just ugh, if I could draw the perfect
Lupita?
woman, like, it would be yes,
Yes.
that's her,
Took me a
that's her.
moment. Yes.
She look she's
She's
just so beautiful. Oh my
gorgeous.
like, please, oh my god, don't why would you
Yes.
change something like
Yeah.
that? Like, why? But, I mean, it's everywhere. There's society will make you dislike yourself, and it's really
Yeah.
sad.
So that's why you were getting touched.
Yes.
It wasn't like, "Ew, she's weird. What's going on?" It was like, "Wow, I wanna
No.
look like her."
No, I had someone tell me that I looked so clean.
What?
Yeah. I was like,
That's kind of heartbreaking. Do you
that
you
it
don't? You
yeah,
think that you don't look clean?
right, what? No, and that's all society. That didn't exist centuries ago, but
Yeah.
it does now, and it comes in and it just destroys everything that's
Well,
naturally
I'm
beautiful.
hoping that truthfully with the change in what I've seen recently in magazines that it's going to dissipate a little bit because honestly, I would say 50%, if not even more of the models that I see in the fashion magazines are
Mhm.
definitely darker skin, tan, of mixed
Yeah,
heritage. And
yeah,
so, yeah, I'm hoping that has shifted there
yeah.
because that is really heartbreaking.
It is, like, first of all, our grandmother told me she didn't want me to go. That's tough. And I'm like, "I'm gonna be fine." She's like, "No, I have a bad feeling." Now, the last thing you wanna hear is your
Yeah.
grandmother saying she has a bad feeling, and I'm
Right?
I'm like, "Grandma, I paid over $2,000. I cannot go."
That bad
And she's
feeling, you gotta set it to the side. Sorry.
you're gonna have to shift that a little bit because tickets are already
It's
paid for.
done.
Yeah, so I know when I went there, I don't regret going. There's some things that I saw that I wish I could unsee, and there's some things that I saw that was just absolutely beautiful. So I got what I asked for, which was,
Right.
no sugarcoating how it is, and it gave me so much more respect for them. I know more about them. I know they work so hard, how much they respect education. I sat down and was able to talk to people about their feelings about Americans in general. But I can tell you where I was, because we went from Lagos to Victoria Island. Now, Victoria Island is more of like a city, like a bigger city.
Uh-huh.
And I know, I believe it was for my birthday, actually. So December 25th, there was a big party in the street, and we were staying at this hotel on the strip, and, I remember I was over the balcony, I was hanging over the balcony just looking, and I knew if I went out there, I needed to cover my head because part of the community was Christian, part was Muslim. It was just safer,
Okay.
though, for me to, be
Yeah.
covered, even though it's hot as heck. Oh my God, nighttime, it was like, I feel the sun, but I don't see the sun. Um, so I'm like, I wanna go down there, and they're like, "Well, I couldn't go anywhere by myself because the stories
Yeah.
you hear are real, about kidnapping." And like
Yes.
I said, I didn't fit in. So I wanted to go down with everybody. I wanted to go down and have a good time. There was music, they were dancing in the streets. It was just a beautiful sight to see all these people so happy. So they took me downstairs, and I had my head covered, and I'm gonna try to describe it. So you've got a long street. Along side streets are like the little markets.
Mhm.
So right around the corner from the hotel, his uncle lived above one of the storefronts, but the storefront he lived above was vacant. And so we go out there, he's standing there, and we're just, I'm just watching all the festivities, and there's not much lighting there, just a few little lights, but it was just, I was like, this is the best birthday ever. In my mind, I'm so glad I'm here. This is where I want to be. And I turned 40 that year. So I'm like, this is my 40th
Oh, it's a
birthday.
big
I'm,
like, wow,
yeah,
that's
I'm
amazing.
I'm in Nigeria, I'm partying, I'm eating good food, and I was a vegetarian until I got there, and then I wasn't, and the food was
Right?
amazing. So, we're standing there, and all of a sudden, I start seeing groves of people running past us, and this is not running like, "This is fun, we're playing whatever." No, they were
It's like
scared,
fear.
fear, and so I'm standing there, and I'm standing behind the person I'm with and his uncle, and I'm scared. I'm scared because
Yeah.
everything just shifted so fast, and I hear glass breaking, and I hear screaming. So his uncle reaches back, and he breaks the lock on the empty, storefront, and he's like, "Go back in there. Go back as far as you can." Now let me tell you, the roaches there are like 4 inches long, and they fly, and I'm like, "I don't wanna do that," but I don't know why if all these people are running, you can't, it's pitch black in there, so I'm like, "I don't know what's in here, but Imma step back slowly, but I don't want my whole back against the wall, so I got my finger behind me
Oh
trying to
my
reach for the
god.
wall, so I know how far back to go, and I just stood there. So after a while, it died down, all the screams, and his uncle grabbed my arm, and he's like, "Come on, let's go." So we go out of the storefront, around another corner, 2 corners to end up back at the hotel, and so I'm at the front step of the hotel, and the manager, which is a woman, the look on her, she scared me even more. Her eyes got big, and she was like, "What is she doing out here?" So she grabs my arm. As she grabs my arm, this big, like, army-looking tank pulls up, and all these guys jump out with guns the size of small children, and they start shooting down the street we just
What?
came off of. I mean, within a matter of seconds,
Why? What was
and
happening?
they're shooting blindly because it's dark down there. You can't even see. So they're shooting blindly down this street, and I'm like, "Oh my god, we just came out, I could have been dead right there." And she's like, "You go upstairs, you don't come out of your room." I mean, and she was so stern, and I'm like, "Oh, okay," because clearly I'm like, "This is my last night on earth. I'm going to
Right.
die."
This is what grandma was talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, "Oh,
Mhm.
grandma was right. Oh my god, I'm so sorry." So, yeah, so I was upstairs and locked the door and just listened until I didn't hear anything anymore. Then went back out. I went and looked at over the balcony, and it was so sad because no one was in the street anymore. And the chairs that they had out there, they were broken. There was broken glass. It just
Oh, how devastating.
it was, but I just
Do you know
am like,
what that was about? Like, what caused all of that?
no idea. But it seemed, after I talked to some people, it's pretty much the norm. At times like that when there's big gatherings. I don't know if it was, and it's hard to tell because the police there look like our military.
Right.
So it's hard to tell if they were the military or if they were the other people that everyone was trying to hide me from. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know who it was,
Oh, that's
but it was
crazy.
scary. And I had a couple more situations that were really creepy, but that was like the worst and the
Yeah.
scariest. I'll never forget it.
I'm glad
Um,
that that was the worst because that's pretty bad.
yeah, it was definitely pretty bad, but Yeah, I have tons of stories. For 5 weeks, I have tons of stories from there, but that was one that stands out the most, and I don't think I was ever so scared to be me.
Absolutely.
I'm like, "Okay, so now is definitely a time, like when I was younger, that my skin was darker." And I did kind of fit in, but no, I absolutely didn't. And I can't help but to think that I could have put people around me in danger, that were trying to keep me safe.
That I think is one thing that you kind of just have to let go,
Mhm. Yeah.
because holding on to that, nothing did happen,
Nope.
and
That's
holding on to that is not beneficial.
nope.
I would have the same reaction. I mean, I have. You've walked me through a couple of situations where you're like, "Well, Rachel, nothing terrible happened. You can't
Mhm.
control it. It wasn't your
Yeah.
fault. Let it
Yeah.
go."
Yeah.
But I know that's easier said than done. So, was there ever a moment when you were there where you were mistaken for a local?
In Nigeria,
Yeah.
fuck no. Never, never,
Well,
ever,
I mean,
ever.
you said people well, we are Nigerian, first
We
of all.
are,
We
but we
are. And you did say skin bleaching kids,
no, I
but
didn't see
no,
this level of skin bleaching. I didn't see this level.
not to that extent.
Nope,
Nobody was
nope, it
as
didn't where
accomplished
I
as
did
you were.
yeah, I didn't see that. Nope, nope,
Have
mm-mm.
you been is there anywhere that you have been that you have been mistaken for somebody of a different culture?
Mm, nope, outside of just here and, people walking up to me speaking Spanish, that's pretty much it. I haven't been anywhere. Like, I haven't been to Mexico, which I can't wait to hear you talk
Oh
about.
my
But
gosh.
I haven't been there, but I can see that happening, and you're proof of that.
Well, I'm actually gonna start with when I lived in Hawaii.
Okay.
That was interesting. So I'm sure most of the people who have been to Hawaii that are listening know that there's a difference between locals and tourists,
Mhm.
and or haoles is the derogatory term.
Mm,
And I am definitely not a local, but I looked it, especially because when I lived there, my skin was very dark. And I was still going through that phase where I straightened my hair every day in the tropics. It didn't always work out in my
whoa,
favor,
wow.
but that's just, it was, my hair was dark and it was long and it was straight. So I
Oh,
was mistaken for either Hawaiian or Polynesian. And it was great until I started to speak. I do not speak the local dialect, which is
mm,
pidgin. And for the most part, it's funny because I trained myself to be quiet
mm,
around people that I don't know, like especially somewhere that if they were to find me out, I would be looked at differently.
gotcha.
So, for the longest time, especially going out at night, going out to the bars, and then you notice the crowd would shift from tourists to locals or depending on the bar that
Mhm.
you're at, I had a tendency to shut my mouth
Okay.
because once and there was only really one time that there was almost a fight that happened over
Mm,
me when I was with who is now my ex-husband, because he's very much a haole. He's very white.
mhm,
So, for some reason, it's not really a fear thing. It was also like I wanna be a fly on the wall and learn the culture because I can.
mhm,
So, I'm just gonna stand back and shut my mouth a little bit. But
mhm.
I mean, that wasn't a constant when I lived there. It was pretty much when I was out at bars drinking and
Gotcha.
noticing, like, things could go sideways real quick.
Mhm,
But yeah, I even one time when I was flying back to Hawaii, I was next to somebody who was born and raised on Oahu, and we had a really great conversation. He was a really nice guy, and I asked him towards the end of the flight, I said, "Oh, did you think that I'm a local?" He said, "Yeah, until you started speaking." And I was like, "That is always what gives it away."
yep, yep,
Every time. Yeah.
mhm,
So, I think living there, I had this kind of training, I guess,
okay,
or this awareness, like, I don't
mm,
look different from most places, so certain places
Right.
from the locals, but I am. So, and I think it's also partially in my nature. I'm a pretty quiet person in a group,
Mhm.
or out socially. I prefer to kind of get the feel, absorb the
Right.
situation before I start talking. And there were a couple I did go to Belize, and same thing
Ooh.
happened to me. People would walk up to me and start speaking their language, and I'm like, "I'm very white. I'm sorry. What?"
Did you ever wanna learn a little bit about the languages before you went to those places?
Well, when I went to Belize, where we stayed was pretty much all very touristy. So a
Okay.
lot of the people I knew I didn't really have to learn how to speak Belizean.
Mhm.
uh, So I didn't, and it was for my honeymoon. So
Gotcha.
I didn't really have time prior to learn the language. I was a little
Right.
busy with planning and all that. I wish I would have, of course.
Mhm. Yeah.
Everywhere that I go, I wish that I would have learned the language. But that being said, my recent trip to Mexico, oh man, I tried so hard and with major fail to learn
Oh.
Spanish.
I only learned, like, because I at one point in time, I did wanna learn the Yoruba language because that was the language from Nigeria, and when I saw that wasn't gonna work in the amount of time I had, I just learned all the swear words and negative words so I'd know if someone was talking about me.
Brilliant.
And nobody
Brilliant.
did. I knew I learned
Good.
all those words
You were, yeah.
absolutely
Oh,
nothing.
good.
Oh, well.
So it worked.
Yes, it did.
Mission accomplished.
Yep.
Um, no, I think my experience in Mexico, I went when I was younger, but I think I was 13, and that was very different. I was with my family who everybody was white, and
Yeah.
we went to the Yucatan Peninsula. It wasn't super touristy,
Mhm.
but it really wasn't that, like, remote. You didn't feel like you
Right.
were, so it was kinda in between. So I felt kind of whatever, and I don't really remember every detail from that, but
Mhm.
this trip, I went with somebody who is born and raised in Mexico City until he was 16 years old.
Yeah.
He speaks Spanish more comfortably than he speaks English.
Okay.
So, that being said, I mean, I tried to learn the language, and I think if I was with somebody who spoke Spanish as a second language, it might have been a little bit different,
Right.
but I listened and I could not keep up with what he was saying half the time because he speaks it so fluently, and we were, in that country, and everybody also spoke fluently.
Mhm.
My favorite experiences, which happened almost daily, because we would go out and we were in San Miguel, Mexico. We were not on the coast. And so we were in central Mexico. And we went into the markets, into the shops or restaurants to get food. And everybody would look at me and just, at one point we were in an art gallery. And if he hears this, he's probably going to remember exactly what I'm talking about. The artist came up to me and started speaking full conversation with me. And I was
Oh.
like, uh, uh, no habla español, and he interrupted. He's like, "She doesn't speak Spanish." "Oh, I'm sorry." I'm like, I'm
Oh,
sorry that you said, like,
I'm
4
sorry that you're
paragraphs."
sorry. Oh,
And I just nodded and smiled.
right.
But the one thing that he did point out is when we were going to the markets and we were going shopping, because I have that initial reaction of being quiet and not
Mhm.
trying to speak first, these salespeople or shop owners would come up to me and start talking to me, or like I'd pick up a sandal and I'm like, and they would give me the price, but they would give me local price. They didn't hike it up
Oh,
because they didn't
what?
look. Yeah, so,
Oh,
and
that's
because
a
he'd
plus.
be in the, he'd be nearby and he'd hear the whole thing. And yeah, so it
Wow.
was a little bit of a benefit, but
Yeah,
then they
definitely.
ask me these questions and I'm like, I look at him and he'd come over and start talking. Like, "Help me,
Help,
please."
help, please.
But it was kind of funny that because I looked like a local, even with my curly hair, that I didn't get the jacked up tourist price
Mhm.
on most of the stuff. But
Right.
it was challenging several times because I'd be stuck. I think there was one time I went out just because also different country, you don't know
Mhm.
about safety. Um,
Right. Right.
there was one time that I did go out by myself and I went to a patisserie to get breakfast.
Okay.
And I walked in and they had the best stuff and it was set up so beautifully. It's so different. And you basically walk in and you pick up what you want. But there were a couple of things that I needed from the cooler and they didn't speak English. And so that
Mm.
was a little bit challenging because with the very limited Spanish I do know, we made it happen, but there was a lot of pointing. And I'd say two of the dos. Like, it was a little hard,
Mhm.
but I saw it as a huge benefit that I looked Mexican in
Yeah.
Mexico.
Yep.
It made me feel a lot less targeted in certain areas. I mean, we didn't go anywhere that was unsafe, but we went into it's a very beautiful place and it's pretty popular, especially when you get into the town square, but I never felt like, "Oh, I'm gonna get targeted as a tourist. I need to keep
Mhm.
my belongings close to me," especially
Right.
because of who I was with. Our other friend who we stayed with is his name is Mike, and he's been in Mexico for 40 years, but he's very much a white guy. So, and
Okay.
he pointed out, I think it was the 3rd or 4th day, he said, "Wow, people really do mistake you as a local. That's pretty
Mm.
funny because he speaks better Spanish than I do." And I'm like,
Right.
I'm just like, I nod and smile and I look for help. When they ramble off, I'm like, "Well, hold on." But no, I love it. I love that no matter where I go, for the most part, I know if I were to go to, like, Norway, it would be very different, but from where I've been, Belize, Hawaii, Mexico, I blend in, and I feel like I've gotten a bit of a different experience because of how I look,
Okay.
and again, training myself to be kind of a mute and just a fly on the wall has really, I don't know, it's been a huge benefit. I think it's pretty freaking awesome, to be honest with you. I noticed that I got looked at and treated differently than Mike, who's lived there for 40 years and owns a home there, right, like, straight off the
Wow.
bat. Not necessarily super negative, but they would have a tendency to gravitate to me and my friend who I was with
Mhm.
versus the person who actually resides there, which is pretty
That is
funny.
wild.
And I got a local discount apparently.
Hello. Woo. All the perks, all the
All the
perks.
perks.
We don't talk about the perks, many of the perks, but that is definitely a perk.
It's definitely a perk. So if you who are listening and are biracial, multiracial, and you travel, try your best, even if you don't speak the language, to just observe
Mhm.
first, see how you
Mhm.
blend in, because it's a pretty cool experience when you let your guard down and just,
Yeah,
you know, mesh in with the locals as much as you can.
agreed, agreed. That's why I'm going back to New Orleans as soon as I can.
Yeah, right?
Let
I
it
don't know
be
where I'm
around.
going, but I'm going somewhere again.
Yeah. I would like to go to Ghana. I would really like to go to
That
Ghana.
would be amazing. Honestly, you wanna know where my number 1? It used to be Portugal,
Mhm.
but I really wanna go to Egypt.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's in
Ah,
Africa, so we should go.
okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. First let's get you guys to New Orleans. Let's
Okay,
start
yes.
smaller,
Okay,
like,
we'll start smaller. That
and
is
then we'll go
fair.
big, you
Okay,
know?
perfect. Awesome. Thank you for sharing everything that you did today, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's
Yeah,
always enlightening because I think that our listeners, we need to remind them sometimes that we're still learning each other as well. We didn't grow up together.
yeah,
So,
exactly. So these are conversations that are truly organic.
yes, so I'm learning a little bit more about you and your experiences and then how you feel about certain situations and I love it. I love it.
Me too.
I think your brainchild to do this was divinely inspired, like, it was meant to be, and I think, Dan had a whole lot to do with us, getting together and
Yeah.
connecting, and, he's smiling right now because he always wanted that. He always wanted that.
I always wanted that.
Yep.
We all did, and it happened, and it was because of him, so
Thanks, dad.
I'm grateful for that. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
I would like to encourage our listeners to share their experiences that they've had while traveling. If there's anything that you would like to share with us, feel free to visit our website and fill out our form, or you can message us on Instagram at mixed.movement. We do post about our episodes. So if after you listen, please feel free to share your story, anything. We want to hear about you and your experiences because without you, we wouldn't be able to do this.
That's
So
right.
thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Hope you all have a wonderful day. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. We want to be here for you, and we can't do what we're doing without your support. Please hit subscribe, and to stay up to date, head on over to mixedmovement.com. That's MIXDMOVEMENT.com to stay up to date with news and more. We are the Mixed Movement. See you next time.